in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys. So they have signed George Pickens, their moody wide receiver, to a franchise tag. Pickens is not happy. He probably doesn't report to camps. The Cowboys have said, we're not trading him. So he's going to make a lot of money for a year. He wants a long contract. But because of his moods, he's not getting one. And I've always said about wide receivers, expensive wide receivers are like convertible sports cars. They look great in the driveway. You feel cool having one. But in inclement weather, late fall, early winter, taking the kids to school, groceries, no bueno. So George Pickens is sort of falling into a trap, the delusional diva wide receiver trap. I thought we were almost out of that cycle. Last year, the 12 highest paid wide receivers in the NFL won exactly 0 playoff games, and only 3 of them made the playoffs. And I'm counting Brandon Ayuk as one of them, and he didn't play. Expensive wide receivers remain the convertible sports car. Cool to have one, fun to drive, briefly, not for everyday use. Quarterback, left tackle, pass rusher. That's where I'm spending my money. That's the heart and lungs. Do whatever you have to do to protect them. ESPN came out with a study last 20 years. What was the one position in the NFL draft first round with the most busts? Wide receiver. I've said this before. Expensive wide receivers are a bad investment. Wide receivers aren't. They're like convertible sports cars. They're a bad investment. You need a car. You don't necessarily need a convertible sports car unless maybe you live in Miami. And so be very careful. I would pay JSN, not just because he's good, but because he's a grown-up. I would have paid Larry Fitzgerald to the last day he wanted to play. But the Chiefs got rid of Tyreek Hill, 2 Super Bowls. Seahawks got rid of DK Metcalf, Super Bowl. Moody receivers are not a great long-term investment. So I think Dallas offering a franchise tag is the smart play here. But just know George Pickens isn't happy. So Stephen Jones is going to come.
Okay. Let us discuss this. This is one of Colin's longest-running arguments about whom to pay and whom not to pay, and it genuinely drives me crazy. It really, really drives me crazy. He says things like, oh, moving on from Tyreek Hill. Well, the Seahawks moved on from DK Metcalf, and then they had Jackson Smith-Njigba, who just became the highest-paid wide receiver. So, he is essentially saying that you do not need to pay top dollar for receivers. But the reality is that Smith-Njigba became the highest-paid receiver even at that time while playing. You still need incredibly high-quality wide receivers, okay? And if you want to use Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs as an example of why you do not pay receivers, that is just absurd. The Eagles had A.J. Brown, and they won a Super Bowl. Cooper Kupp, a Triple Crown winner, and the Los Angeles Rams won a Super Bowl. This is what drives me crazy about all this kind of stuff, because people will say, well, yeah, but they did not have to pay Jackson Smith-Njigba last year, so it is not really the same thing. Guys, we are getting too easily tripped up by those types of takes. Because we are essentially saying that you cannot build a great team while also paying a receiver a lot of money. Ja'Marr Chase is elite. The fact that the Bengals paid him $40 million is not why Cincinnati has struggled and missed the playoffs. That is just not true. It is just not true. They paid Justin Jefferson, and Minnesota did not make the playoffs. This year. It was not because they paid him money. And the year before that, when they were competing for the number 1 seed, again, Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have to pay someone. You have to pay, and you can do this with all the position groups. If we just look at the top 10 running back contracts from last year. Saquon Barkley did not win a playoff game. Christian McCaffrey won 1 playoff game against the Eagles. Derrick Henry with the Ravens did not make the playoffs. Kenneth Walker, this is the Jackson Smith-Njigba situation. Seattle did not pay him top dollar at the time. So, if it does not count for Smith-Njigba last year, then it does not count for the Seahawks either. Breece Hall did not make the playoffs. Jonathan Taylor did not make the playoffs. Jeremiah Love is obviously not in the NFL yet. Alvin Kamara did not make the playoffs. Josh Jacobs did not win a playoff game. Travis Etienne made the playoffs but did not win a playoff game. So this is just so frustrating. Let us look at edge rushers. Will Anderson Jr., no Super Bowl. Micah Parsons, no Super Bowl. Aiden Hutchinson, no Super Bowl. TJ Watt, no Super Bowl. Danielle Hunter, no Super Bowl. Myles Garrett, no Super Bowl. Max Crosby, no Super Bowl. Nick Bosa, no Super Bowl. Jonathan Greenwood was with the Vikings, no Super Bowl. When you do this with any type of contract, when you pay players, of course it is more of a disadvantage for your team, no matter the position. No matter the position. Highest paid tight ends? Trey McBride did not make the playoffs. Kyle Pitts did not make the playoffs. Isaiah Likely did not make the playoffs. Mark Andrews did not make the playoffs. Jake Ferguson did not make the playoffs. Travis Kelce did not make the playoffs. So all I am trying to say is that we can play this game with every single position. I am not even saying that this means the Cowboys should pay George Pickens. That is not my argument. But I hate looking at the highest paid players of any position group and saying, look what happens when you pay these players. Because you do the same thing with quarterbacks. That is the lowest hanging fruit, actually. Dak Prescott, no Super Bowl. Joe Burrow, no Super Bowl. Josh Allen, no Super Bowl. Jordan Love, no Super Bowl. Trevor Lawrence, no Super Bowl. Jared Goff, no Super Bowl. Brock Purdy, no Super Bowl. Justin Herbert, no Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson, no Super Bowl. Finally, Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl. Deshaun Watson, no Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl. Daniel Jones, no Super Bowl. Come on. But yeah, I think doing this whole song and dance with George Pickens is not smart because of who Pickens is as a player and a person, and we talked about that the other day. So I do not want to go on that whole rant again. But I will say this as a counter, because I know this has always been a common take. Oh, well, if he wants a big contract, he is going to behave this way or that way. He is going to play really hard. That is not the case anymore. Maybe back years and years ago, there was some truth to that, but the reality is that if a team wants George Pickens, if any team wants him, they are going to pay him. If the Panthers say, man, we really need a wide receiver, or the Commanders or whoever, I am just making up teams here. Even if he drags his feet this year and puts in half effort or is a little disruptive, as long as he does not turn into Brandon Ayuk where he completely vanishes, because that is a different story, but if he is pretty much like an A.J. Brown, kind of what A.J. Brown did this past season, then if a team wants him, they will get him. They will pay for him. Will they reset the market and give him 55 million a year? No, but they will still ton off money. They are not going to say, oh, will they pay a 55 million a year? No, but they will still ton off money. They are not going to say, oh, will they pay a 35 million, but now we will not. DK Metcalf is a great example of that. Brandon Ayuk is another great example. So it is not like people are saying, well, if he wants that money, he has to be on his best behavior. No, he does not. No, he does not. And now we are talking about the draft and wide receivers and how it has the biggest bust rate. For the longest time, the argument was, do not pay wide receivers because there are a million of them coming out of the draft every year. So then if the bust rate for wide receivers is so high, should that not be exactly why you should pay proven veterans? Because you know at least these receivers are proven. You do not want to take a chance on the draft because the risk is too high. You would rather just pay for a proven player. That is where these conversations always make me laugh. And we will talk about these other teams that have had a lot of success. They have had elite receivers. Yes, the Los Angeles Rams do not have the highest paid receiver, but they have Puka Nacua, who is arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. And they would not hesitate to pay him. Things are weird now because of all the other stuff off the field. But if he did not have all that other stuff going on, he would be getting paid. They would not say, oh, we are going to move on from him. And people say, well, they found him in the 5th round. That is really hard to do. Can we stop pretending that is a normal thing to do? Colin said that Nacua fell in the draft because of all the other stuff. So it just does not always make sense. The New England Patriots, what do they want to go out and get? A top receiver in the NFL. A.J. Brown. That is what everyone is saying. They have to do this. That is what they have to do. Rassi Rice, if he did not also have all the other stuff going on, they would pay him top dollar. If he was healthy and did not have all the other issues, he would be getting paid. Tom Brady was willing to do whatever he needed to do to get Antonio Brown, just a semblance of being functional. He said, "You can stay at my house. I will sleep on the floor. Whatever you need, man." That is how much he wanted him. He tried to get him to New England. He tried to get him to Tampa. He said, "Come on. Come on. Oh, you are going to make fun of me and my wife and my kids? That is okay. It is cool. You want some blueberries and some turkey bacon?" So, I was like, what? When you look at all the teams that have had success, they have often bucked some sort of trend. Let us go back to the Los Angeles Rams. They had Cooper Kupp, Triple Crown winner. Then they went out and got Odell Beckham Jr., another elite wide receiver. He was a top receiver at the time. His career was right on the cusp, then he got injured and all that, but he was clearly an elite top receiver at that moment. They needed him. If anything, he was trending toward being the MVP of that Super Bowl before he got injured. The Eagles paid Saquon Barkley. Everyone said, paying for a running back never works out for teams. And yet, two of the most consistent teams in the NFL both paid a lot of money for their running backs. So it just kind of drives me crazy, honestly. It really does. No doubt, when we look at random lists like this, you are in a position to be at your best when you have a Jamar Chase, a Justin Jefferson, any of these players, Myles Garrett, before you have to pay them. When you can get them at a discount or on a rookie contract, yes, because you are getting insane production for what is essentially free. It barely has to be factored in. Technically, if you are a well-organized team depending on and the timeline of when you drafted said player, yes, you are going to be in a better position to win. But the reality is that often, if you move on from that player, let us say you look at the highest paid edge rushers and say, see, when you pay them, they do not win, so you move on from Myles Garrett, but then you have to try your best to find another player like Myles Garrett. Same thing with receivers. If Jackson Smith-Njigba was not essentially one of the highest paid receivers in the NFL at that quality of play, then the Seattle Seahawks do not win the Super Bowl. And the last point that I want to drive home, I almost forgot this, and I would have been so mad if I did not mention it. The Seattle Seahawks wanted to keep DK Metcalf. They wanted to keep Geno Smith and DK Metcalf. Make no mistake about it. The general manager said that. He wanted to keep both of them. So it was not them just saying, oh, we just know how to do this in a smarter way, so we are going to move on from DK. That is not what they wanted to do. That is not what they wanted to do at all. So just saying. Those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about the Dallas Cowboys and George Pickens? How do you think this is all going to continue to play out? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let us get into some discussions. Let us get into some fights. But ultimately, let us just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we are really excited to be part of. I think we are well on our way to doing it. Please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.